Hey, what's up, my people? John Middlekauff, new YouTube channel. What I need you to do, subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, share with your friends. Appreciate everyone that has. It's the podcast, 3 and Out. You can listen wherever you listen to podcasts. Apple, Spotify. We got you covered. Also, thevolume.com. We got merch right here. FlexFit hat. Go to thevolume.com. Get yourself a 3 and Out hat. Okay, the breaking news, Jim Harbaugh leaving the University of Michigan, a champion, and heading to the Los Angeles Chargers. Let's start with the Chargers angle of all this. It is never too late. It is never the wrong time to do the right thing. And while they have consistently got it wrong for years now with coaching, they had no other option. They had to put all their chips in the middle of the table. What they just went through the last couple of years with Brandon Staley, they were the worst combination of everything. They were irrelevant. They weren't winning games. They were a laughingstock. They're the second team in a city. Yet they have this quarterback with all this talent who they had just paid all this money to. And for the first time in a long time, they swam in the deep end when it came to talking to the important people. And they circled the right guy. Because this guy now had one thing Jim Harbaugh's good at is when he took over the 49er job, he took over the Stanford job. They were 1-11 laughingstock. He takes over the 49er job, Mike Singletary, who's one of the worst all-time coaches. Then he goes to Michigan after the Brady Hoke debacle. And now he comes to the Chargers after Brandon Staley. So one, he's proven he can win, but he also does not follow Nick Saban or Bill Belichick. He follows the guy that no one's ever going to hire again for that job at that level program or in the NFL. So Jim, don't sleep on Jim that way. But the Spanos family is never going to be the most important thing in Los Angeles. That's impossible. The Lakers and the Dodgers will always be bigger than them. Even the Rams had been in LA for a long time before St. Louis stole them. But here's the thing. When you have Jim Harbaugh as your head coach, and you have a quarterback who has the chance, he kind of fell off a little bit this year, but I think all eyes will be on him moving forward, to be a guy who's consistently talked about and plays like and in the game's verse in the biggest moments now, because Jim's history is he wins. He goes to the playoffs. NFL, college, doesn't matter. He's winning double-digit games, and he's in the games that matter. So Herbert is going to be playing against Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. See the television ratings the last couple of weeks? Talking 35, 40, 50 million people watching these games. So he can take your franchise to a level that you guys have just fallen into irrelevancy. And let's face it, you're in a division with the best coach in football, Andy Reid, the best quarterback in football, Patrick Mahomes. Another guy, while polarizing, we can't argue that Sean Payton is not good at his job. He got $90 million to coach Denver. I think Denver is going to be much better. And in a conference that is just loaded with star quarterbacks. So you couldn't afford to go the route in which you've been going. And in fairness, they knew that. And from talking to people and clearly just based on their actions, this was their number one guy all along. And this is the type guy who can change the course of your franchise. I saw it with the 49ers. They were so shitty before he got there. It didn't matter how many talented guys, how many Pro Bowlers and All Pros they had potential on their team. They didn't play like that with a bad coach. Because when you have a bad coach, I don't care the talent you have on your team, you're always going to underachieve. And the 49ers were in a situation where they were playing this dilapidated stadium. Their ownership relative to the rest of the league didn't have as much money. And then within a couple of years, they're in the Super Bowl. They get funding, for a new stadium and change their franchise. Now, it ended poorly, but I would say this. Jim Harbaugh feels like a different guy now at 60 years old than he did at 45. The guy we saw at Stanford and with the 49ers. He's still a little quirky, a little out there, but he does feel like he just matured a little bit as the head honcho. And clearly, once he won at Michigan, he had his eyes set on the Chargers, not because he used to play there, not because I think that his coaching career started as a head coach in San Diego, but because they have a legit quarterback. And I think his brother serves as a great example. John Harbaugh was on the hot seat the year Lamar Jackson was drafted. They had not been good. And then even that season, it was not going well with Joe Flacco. Lamar Jackson changed the course and the trajectory of John Harbaugh's career. Changed it. Put him in a stratosphere of like, he just should have a good team moving forward as long as Lamar Jackson has 2 feet. So Jim Harbaugh, he got lucky. Like, clearly he wanted the Minnesota job a couple years ago. And listen, he would have competed with Kirk Cousins. But this is a better opportunity. It really is. Now, it's tough, AFC coaching division, but Jim Harbaugh proved he could win the big one, which was kind of the elephant in the room with him. Now, can he join the elite company of, obviously, if you were to win a Super Bowl, he'd be in rare air of guys that have done both, college and the pros. But the other thing is, like, you win with the Chargers? You get the Chargers to be really good? Talk about a notch on your belt. Like, you could argue that'd be the most impressive thing he's done since Stanford. Like, the 49ers are proven, like, they should be good. Michigan, like, they should be good. The Toreros in San Diego, that was impressive, but no one even can contextualize that. Stanford, like, that's a difficult job. This is a difficult job because they consistently do not win. They consistently let you down. They consistently blow games. And from an ownership standpoint, they consistently go cheap on coaches. So Jim's not cheap. And Jim guarantees you, to me, like, relevancy, sometimes like that's like a marketing term. This is like substantial, tangible relevancy because you're going to win. Because that's all the guy has ever done. He guarantees you winning. Even Bill Belichick, who I think it's crazy that the Falcons already haven't offered him the job and made him their head coach. But I could see it's like, well, if you remove Tom Brady, it doesn't matter with Jim Harbaugh. He had a ton of different quarterbacks in Michigan, won 9 to 11 games all the time. Got his best quarterback, won the Natty, and went to the playoffs nonstop. One with Alex Smith, one with Kaepernick, one with Andrew Luck, one with the dude before Andrew Luck. So this guy's proven he can win with any type of quarterback. So when you give him a talented quarterback, the other thing, the Harbaugh family, like, one of their best talents, like, neither of them call offense or defense. They're CEO head coaches. They are elite at hiring assistant coaches. It's something that we don't talk about enough. We really don't, because it's no different than like talking about GMs. We talk about GMs a lot. Like, how does he draft? You do know there's more to being a GM than just draft picks. Around who do you sign and trade and cut and stuff during the season? How are you in free agency? How is your ability to work with coaches? Do you bring other stuff to the table with your coaching staff? It's more than just like, well, who does he draft in the 3rd round? As a head coach, building your staff is something that is essential for success, especially like John and Jim don't call plays. They always have excellent coordinators, especially for Jim, who, former quarterback, leans offense. We know what his offense is going to look like. He's going to love running the ball. He's going to have a tight end. He's going to want to be very, very physical. But defensively, 2 reasons they dominate. 1, he hires premium guys on that side of the ball. And 2, because of his style on offense, it creates a more physical team. It's why a lot of spread offenses aren't physical on defense. You are who you practice against. So to me, I would expect Jim to bring his defensive coordinator, who comes from the Ravens, mentor, with him to the Chargers, who proved that he's big time. Like, the guy's a star, just like Mike McDonald, who's Harbaugh's, right? And offensive coordinator, I don't know. We'll have to see. I would imagine Sharon Moore, a buddy of mine in the NFL, just texted me. Do you know what would be a boss move? If the University of Michigan hired Mike Vrabel. I was like, you think he'd go to Michigan, be an Ohio State guy? He's like, put $18 million a year in front of him, see if he says no. And once you get old enough, like, who cares? That'd be kind of crazy. But it's way less devastating for Michigan once he won that title. Like, it's like, whatever. Listen, if we wanted to argue all day about the sign stealing, I think it's just the cost of doing business. Did he cross the line a little bit? Yes. Everyone in business is going up against the line. A lot of successful companies cross that line. If you don't, you're not going to be successful. Successful people don't avoid that line. Some, yes, jump it and get in trouble. Welcome to fucking capitalism. Welcome to high pressure competitive industries. It's part of the deal. It doesn't bother me as much. Just like the stuff with Belichick taping the signs. Everyone was doing it. He just got the most extreme. Now, I do understand it's easier to be a head coach in the NFL than in college with NIL, the transfer portal. Like, that can't be that fun. Where literally every guy on your roster is a free agent every single year, which you'd be like, well, it's always happened with the coaches. Yeah, it's true. But now it's the players too. So if I had a choice between the NFL, where I have players under contract, or college, where I also have to pay them through the NIL, but then also they can leave if they don't like their status, like that has to be exhausting. And clearly they're going to come after the NCAA, which I can't wrap my head around how these universities still deal with the NCAA. This isn't like the United States government where you have no choice. You got to pay taxes. Like, couldn't you just break off? What does the NCAA bring to the Big Ten or to any of the major conferences now? They don't own the playoffs. They have nothing to do with the television network contracts. So I would imagine he doesn't want to get in trouble and get suspended again. So he's like, I'm out. And I want to try to win that Super Bowl. And this is, in my opinion, the best opportunity for me to win the Super Bowl. I've said all along, I hope he stayed on Saturdays because the NFL didn't necessarily need him, though he is an addition wherever he goes. You hire Jim Harbaugh, it's an addition to your team, to your division, to your league. He's an important character in the number one television show that is now football. The number one show is the NFL. The number 1B show is college football. So as long as he stays in the mix, like we're better off with him coaching. Like Sean McVay, like, yeah, he could go to Amazon and make 20 million. Football is better with him on the sideline. And I think Jim Harbaugh is one truly of the great cash cows we've ever seen in the sport. Every single place that has made Jim Harbaugh as their coach has benefited greatly. The Michigan thing was a little rocky at first. And by the end, he was kicking the shit out of Ryan Day. You know who had a great day today? Ryan Day. What a moment for Ryan Day. Now he has the highest payroll with Texas in the country, and he does not have to face Jim Harbaugh ever again. You'd be like, well, John, they didn't face Jim Harbaugh this year. Well, Jim got to coach the team during the week. Jim's just gone. And now if he can't beat Sharon Moore, assuming he'll be the next head coach at Michigan, I would imagine Ryan Day will be fired at the end of next season. I guess you could still make the playoffs and who knows, win a national championship. So I got to look at college football a little bit differently. But like, you can't go on 4 to Michigan and keep your job. That's just not the way it works there. I don't care how many times you beat Rutgers or Wisconsin. But big moment for Ohio State. Sucks for Michigan, but at least you got that national title. And it was an impressive national title. You beat Nick Saban the last game he ever coached. I know the score was relatively close, but as someone that had Washington money on them, you took it to him. And Harbaugh brought you back to glory. That's what he does everywhere. He brings you glorious moments because you win. And no franchise was in more desperation for some glory and some just important games and thinking like, oh, the Chargers are good. The Chargers are going to win than the Spanos family. And I know they've pushed back. I know a lot of people that know them. They're like, they get so insecure about being called cheap. We pay our players. Every team pays their players. Mike Brown's handing out $200 million to quarterbacks. Everyone has money now. This is the type move. Like, this is your money. Everyone has the media money, the salary cap. You got to pay the players no matter what. What about this type move? Because historically, you've gone cheap on this. Well, Jim's not cheap. And Jim is expensive, and he gives you a chance to win. And he almost guarantees you just success, whether that's 10-7 or 11-6. Like, you'll be in the playoff mix. Something that Brandon Staley was taking you clearly in the wrong direction. But what a day. Jim Harbaugh's back in the National Football League.